Hi, in this video we're gonna talk about fractional numbers, so let's start and not waste any time. So fractional numbers, what are they? Well, it's pretty simple. The name says it all. It's a number with a fraction attached to it. So there are in this fractional number there is a number of integer. So number of integer, and there's also a fraction attached to it. So for example, if we want to represent that 3.5, we can represent this by small pies, and we see that we have 3 pies and a 4th pie, but the 4th one is not complete and we only have half of it. So that would be a representation of what is a fractional number. A very important thing you can notice is that we could write this fractional number as a fraction also, and we could write something like 7/2, and that would also be 3 pi and a half. And we're gonna learn in this video how to transform fractional numbers into fractions and how to do operation involving those fractional numbers. So now let's do another example. If we have 2 3/4 and we want to add this to 12/5, now there is a very interesting thing. The denominator here are not the same. We have 4 for our first denominator and we have 5 for our second denominator. And now if we look at this in terms of pi, if we have those pies, here we have 1 pi, another pi, and here we have 3/4 of a pi. So if we want to add to these pies a number of fifths, then we're gonna have to transform this first fractional number into fraction, and then put everything on the same denominator like we learned before and like we talked about in the videos related to adding and subtracting fractions. So how can we transform this into a fraction? Well, it's simple as usual. You do 4/4 plus 4/4 plus 3/4. And what I'm doing here is that I am just adding the 4th. So 1 pi is 4/4, and another pi is again 4/4, and 3/4 or 3/4 of a pi is 3/4. So we add all those and we get, since they are all on the same denominator, which is 4, we get 4 plus 4 plus 3, that's 11/4. And we see that this fractional number can be transformed into the fraction 11/4, and for this I can give you a simple formula that will work much faster than drawing and thinking. You can only multiply the number of integer times the denominator plus the numerator of the fraction, all this over the denominator itself, and this will always give you the right result. So you do this 2 is here, you take the 3 that is at the numerator here and you add it, and you take this 4 and you multiply it by the 2, and you also put it at the denominator. Alright, so that's the formula to transform a fractional number into a fraction in seconds. Now we're gonna talk about exercises, and for those exercises I'm gonna give you some steps to follow. So when you meet and when you want to master fractional numbers, you should follow these steps until you're very comfortable with them and you don't have to think anymore. So first step is transform. You need to transform fractional numbers into fraction. So you need to transform the fractional numbers into fractions. Then you need to write the expression in terms of fractions. So then you write the expression, so you had that expression and now you write it again, but you transform all those fractional numbers into fractions. You substitute it. So an example would be if you have 11 over 4 plus 12 over 5, then you need to put them on the same denominator, and that it would be the third step. Put fractions on the same denominator. And finally, you always need to simplify. As usual with fraction, you always reduce your fractions. So that's very important. When we are working with fractions, we always need to reduce those fractions. We cannot give an answer that has not been reduced because we're going to lose points. So I will skip the example that I want in the steps, and we'll just apply this in our exercises. So let's do the first exercise. 5 2/3 minus 7 14/5. How do we deal with this? Well, we deal with this very quickly. If we follow what I just told you, we're going to transform fractional numbers into fraction. How we do this? First, we multiply 5, which is the number of integer, by 3, which is the denominator, and we add 2, which is the numerator, and we put that over 3 because this is the denominator. And we do minus 7 times 5 plus 14. It is the same logic here, divided by 5, and that gives us 17 over 3. And now we have minus 49 over 5, and now we are now at the step 3 because we have already written the step 2. Write down expression in terms of fraction. This is done. So here was step 1, here is step 2, and now let's go for step 3. Step 3, we put the fraction on the same denominator. For this, we're gonna have to multiply the first one by 5 over 5 and the second one by 3 over 3, and that will give us 85 over 15 minus 147 over 15, and once this operation has been done, it gives us minus 62 over 15. So this fraction is not reducible, so we cannot simplify it anymore, and that was step 3. And here there is a step 4, which implied only to check if this fraction can be reduced, and I can tell you that it cannot be reduced because 15 can be divided only by 3, 5, and 15. And I will skip 1 because 1 is not very useful because everything can be divided by 1, and that will not help us to simplify anything, so I will just skip it. And 62 can be divided by many, well, it can be divided by many numbers, but it cannot be divided by 3, and it cannot be divided by 5, and it cannot be divided by 15, and that's the only thing we need to know, because if they do not share any common divider, then this fraction cannot be reduced. How do I know that 62 cannot be divided by 3? Well, some arithmetic, and there are some tricks like adding the 6 and the 2 and seeing that this gives us 8 and that 8 is not dividable by 3, and you can learn all those little tricks in the arithmetic section of my YouTube channel. If it's not done yet, it's gonna be done soon, and I invite you to subscribe and come back because there are a lot of information that are gonna be put at this place. So in the next video we're gonna take a quick look at how to reduce fractions, and I'm gonna do some examples for you.